I'm Dr. Rebecca Sachs. I am a clinical psychologist in New York. And I just wanted to say happy birthday to the ADA. I'm not going to sing my birthday medley. I will spare the audience on that. But what I will say is I want to just share two reasons why I am thankful for the ADA as federal law. So I work with patients with OCD and who are autistic, who are on the autism spectrum. And so just even in the past few months, the existence of the ADA has really been sort of huge and primary in my thought process. You know, when COVID really hit New York and New York City, there was a really big concern with my patients and my patients' families. How would they be treated in the hospital if they had to go? We heard lots of chatter about sort of decision-making processes and sort of maybe people with disabilities and people with intellectual disabilities and people with developmental disabilities being sort of lower on the totem pole with access to care. And one of the things that was really phenomenal was a very clear directive from the federal government saying that that could not be the case, that would be considered discrimination against people with disabilities, and that also not in compliance with federal law. So it really made for great conversations with individuals and their families to really know what their rights were and what they needed to do to advocate for themselves or for their family members. We created even some visual preps, some very clear documentation with lawyers so that if people had to walk into the hospital, that maybe with that documentation, that there would be a very clear message, I know my rights and I know my federal law. So just to have that in place was great. The other thing that came up is, you know, a couple of my patients have also now gone back to work. And so what was going on is prior to COVID, they were noticing ways that maybe the workplace wasn't optimal for neurodiverse people, and like sensory sensitivities, they could become sensory overwhelmed, sort of like social demand, so experiencing social fatigue at the end of a long work day. And prior to COVID, a lot of my patients made the choice to not disclose and not ask for accommodations. They sort of felt like they wanted to muscle through. And because it's their decision, I supported that. But as they were going back, what they noticed was because of mask wearing, because of social distancing, because just getting to work, that transition to and from work felt a lot more taxing, that there were increased demands on them that were speaking to social communication difficulties, that were speaking to sensory overwhelm, that were speaking to maybe how they process emotion and taxing them even more. And it led to a really nice discussion of, you know, federal law allows you to disclose, to be protected, and to ask for accommodations, and in no way should you be penalized. And so I've now had two patients who have reached out to their managers and have been able to participate in conversations. And I have to say, you know, corporate has been overwhelmingly supportive, that they understand this is law. So, you know, in some ways they say, yeah, we want to help you. And it sort of feels like nice, but not really legit. But then when they say is, we know according to law, this is what we're obligated to provide. And here's sort of our flow of how we meet those accommodations. And there was already a very clear structure in place. I think it felt very nice to these patients to know that they weren't sort of creating something just for them, that there was a very clear path ahead. And I think that only happened because there is federal law in place. So I just wanted to say thank you, ADA. I think especially in these times, it's important to have rights codified for people who just need the world to adjust, to make them, to speak to their strengths, and also to make sure they're protected when we're living in a time of COVID. Thank you.